we get to our program launch. So I'm briefly going to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see this. This is our DEQ website. And I briefly wanted to show this resource to point you to the Stopping Food Waste page. I will put this link in the chat once I stop sharing my screen. But for right now, for all of the information about this program is going to live on this page. DEQ is actually about to relaunch our website. And so the links are going to get reorganized shortly. This page will have a redirect link, but for right now, for sake of website relaunch, we are going to keep pretty much all of the information and the resources about this program on the same web page, including this section that says resources for subaward applicants. So on this website, this link right here will take you to this YouTube playlist, which is our 2 recorded calls from the last 2 weeks, and then I'll add this call once we are finished today. And then there are some other relevant links and resources that might be helpful here as you all start to think about what you might want to include in your subaward proposals and in your applications. Over the next 2 or so weeks, we'll be adding more information to this website. But just wanted to give you all a heads up that everything will be on this website or like this web page for right now. And then as we get further along and past the website relaunch, we'll probably reorganize it a little bit so that it's less crowded on this one page. But for right now, everything is concentrated right here. And then my last announcement is just a reminder that our last call will be the information session for the food rescue and composting program. So that call is going to be in a couple of weeks on September 9th, which is a Tuesday at 11 a.m. And then that is all of the things that I wanted to share with you all right now. And I am going to kick it over to our first speaker for today, today's food waste prevention call. Our first speaker is from the University of Mary Washington.
All right, thanks so much, Sydney, and everybody for including me in this and for setting this up. Appreciate you guys making this a regular thing and allowing us to collaborate with each other and meet each other. All right, I will try to be pretty quick. Let me see if I can just get my slides up. That'll probably be the first thing. And see if I can share these. I don't have a lot of things to share or to talk about, but I think I can provide a good overview of what we're doing here. Are my slides being shared right now?
Yep.
Yes, we can see them.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. Appreciate this. All right, let me see here. So a little bit about us. Oops, sorry. Here, I can close that off. See if, I guess I'm not, the way I have it is just my titles are being cut off at the top. I should have tested that out. So a little bit about, UMW, if you're not aware, a little about our history and our background. It's a liberal arts college. We're located in Fredericksburg, between Richmond and DC. Initially, we were a teachers college, women's only teachers college, and part of the University of Virginia. And then over time expanded and became its own entity, and then admitted males as well. And so we're a co-ed college. Now we've got about 4,000 students across 2 campuses, with large majority of our students being at the Fredericksburg campus, which is in the image right behind me. We've got a smaller satellite campus as well in Stafford. We have 1 main dining hall and then 4 smaller restaurants on campus. Our main food provider is Sodexo. Most students on campus have a meal plan or have taken part in some form of a meal plan. So we've got about 2,400 students that would regularly eat on campus and purchase food on campus. We have a food studies minor. This is a new thing that we've introduced this year, spearheaded by one of our faculty in sociology, and really a campus-wide effort amongst a whole bunch of different faculty from a whole bunch of different departments to create a food studies minor, and food waste is a big topic in that program. So that's a little bit about us and University of Mary Washington. So you have a bit of context as to our background and who we are. All right, let's go to the next one. So who am I? Who is this guy talking to me? Why am I listening to this guy? I'm an associate professor of marketing at UMW. My research is in food and things like date labels and food waste. I teach a course on food waste. My 12th year at the University of Mary Washington. I'm a member of AARP, if you're trying to guess my age. I taught courses in marketing research, digital marketing, and currently I teach a course called Alleviating Food Waste, which about 30 students a year take, which is about the capacity of the course because it's an honors course. So that's kind of how I got into this, is I study a lot of the business side of it and how things came about in terms of leading to food waste. And as if you're on this call, you probably know all the things about the myths of date labels and abundance and all the things that retailers try to do to get people to buy more stuff, only for them not to use it or throw it out. So that's kind of where my background is in all of this stuff, which is it's really quite interesting. I gave a talk, I think about a year ago, on food waste and date labels. And again, it's really hard to convince people that date labels aren't real. They're very hesitant to, throw out something that says freshest by date. And they're like, oh no, freshest by date was yesterday. I have to throw it out now. It's really hard to convince people. In fact, when I gave a talk once, there was I think a couple weeks later, I got a can of, I think it was tomato sauce in the mail, and it said freshest by date was like 2 weeks ago, and the person was like, "Go ahead and try it," and I did, and I'm still okay. I think everybody that tried that can was still okay. So yeah, there. Okay. So food waste at UMW. It's a picture of our main dining hall, or part of our main dining hall. Sodexo conducted a food audit about 3 years ago and found that on average about 4 ounces of food were wasted per person per day, which amount to about 3,400 pounds of food wasted weekly when we added up breakfast and lunch and dinner and everything in between, including food preparation. Total, we were wasting about 3,400 pounds of food weekly, which is a huge amount, especially for a school that's only about 4,000 people. We haven't measured food waste in residence halls or in off-campus housing, so we haven't done that. We've only got anecdotal evidence on the amount of food that's wasted there. So the only quantifiable one was a food audit that Sodexo had done about 3 years ago. So what are we doing to reduce food waste? Well, we're very active in the food recovery network. We've got a really good group that's been very active in developing and executing the food recovery network. And those of you that have it on campus, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, the food recovery network will do is that they will box up food. They'll take a couple of days and they'll box up food that hasn't been eaten from our dining halls, and they'll deliver that to a local nonprofit. In our case, it's a homeless shelter. So the students will box it up, I think on Mondays and Thursdays, and then they'll have other students go and deliver it on Tuesdays and Fridays to the homeless shelter. So food doesn't go wasted. It's all put in packets and then distributed out to a local nonprofit. And this is almost entirely spearheaded by the students. There's some oversight by the community, by the Center for Community Engagement, and by Sodexo as well, who's been a really great partner in allowing us to do this. But the students have really taken this on themselves. Like they'll do the signups, they'll do the recruitment, they'll get the word out, they'll show up and do this on their own time, and spend an hour or a couple of hours a week dedicated to this operation to make sure that the food is going to a good cause and isn't being thrown out. So here's a picture of a lot of our happy students after one of their efforts, and this is all the stuff that they've boxed up and they'll be delivering to the homeless shelter the next day. So our dining facilities have taken steps to reduce waste within the dining halls. So when food is served by employees, no longer it's the buffet style that allows people to just take what they want. And we've eliminated trays to try to reduce, people taking too much and then ending up throwing it out from not eating it. So those have shown to be pretty successful in other institutions, and we've carried that over to ours. The campus resource can donate food to the Gwen Hale Resource Closet. This is a local resource closet for anybody on campus or the campus community to go and get food that they need, so non-perishables as well as other items. So if anybody has donations in the residence halls or faculty or staff and they don't want to throw it out, they can always drop it off at the Gwen Hale Resource Closet, and students can go there anonymously. We keep no record of who uses the resource closet. We only ask that you tick off that you have, just so we know how many people are using it, but we don't know who's using it. So students feel comfortable going and then taking what they need. So we have that as well. Now, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, okay, all right, so far so good. You haven't really talked about composting or what you do with food that can't be rescued or can't be recovered. I will get to that. A few of our strengths. Students are engaged. So the students are very active in food waste prevention. They understand how bad it is, or they're understanding it. And I think once the students take classes in the food studies minor and have related interests, we kind of get those students who are already very active in their communities and who are very engaged already. So they're really taking this upon themselves. So we leverage the fact that we have very engaged students. We've got strong partnerships. We have a local food retailer, the Fredericksburg Food Co-op, and they've been like a really great support partner for us. Here's an example. We've got students that would go there weekly, and what they would do is they would take food that would regularly be discarded. This is a picture of one of the students doing that. What they'll do is they'll take food that's regularly going to be discarded and they'll upcycle it. They'll make something out of it. They'll make bread, or they'll make cake or something like that. And they'll go there and they'll go to the co-op, and they'll also pass out literature on the myths of date labels, so that shoppers who are at the co-op can read about that and ask questions about freshest by, best by, used by, all these sort of things, which again, we know are not real, but yet perpetuate the amount of waste that people are contributing to. So they'll regularly do this. This is a thing that the co-op allows us to do. And it's been a great partnership. It's been a great partnership with a local retailer. So we're happy to do that. We've got a great partnership with the regional food bank. The food bank serves clients from 4 different counties, including the city of Fredericksburg. And this is just an example, or this is just a picture of the CEO of the food bank, Dan Mayer, giving our students a tour of their facilities and how much food is brought in, and the volunteers that help to sort the food and where there's greatest need. And so they can understand the operations of the food bank, and perhaps where they can help out. We've had several students volunteer after being exposed to what the food bank does. So we're really happy about that. So students are really engaged. So we're happy. So we like to think that's a pretty good strength, is that we've got good engagement across campus, not just a subset of a few, but we've got like students from all different backgrounds. We've got students who, are in computer science. We've got students who are in philosophy. We've got students who are athletes. We've got students who have, work full time or work almost full time at a part-time job, and they're still very active in these organizations and these clubs to try to prevent waste. So we're super happy about that. We think that's one of our strengths. We've got interdisciplinary focus. We've got classes in environmental science, in business, in sociology that touch on food waste or have that food waste component to it. So we think those are our strengths that we're trying to leverage and trying to build off of. Okay. Room for improvement. So this is where I want to get to composting. We don't have a large-scale composting program. I'll talk about where we think we can go with this. So we've reached out in the past to 2 of the larger commercial composting operations, Nope and Convertus, and we're kind of like when your cell phone doesn't work, we're kind of in that dead zone. That's where Fredericksburg is. So on this map here, we've got Richmond. So they'll serve the UVA. I think this is Nope. I think this is Nope's service area. They'll serve UVA. They'll serve VCU and University of Richmond. They'll serve Christopher Newport. So they'll service those areas. And I think William and Mary might be in here as well. Yes, William and Mary's here as well. But we're probably like right here at the very top of this picture. And Convertus, which is based out of Manassas, will serve GMU and universities and colleges around Northern Virginia. But we're kind of in between those. We're not in the Nope service area. We're not in the Convertus service area, and we don't have the scale. We're not as big to cause them to expand their service area. We're not GMU or JMU or something like that. We don't have this. We just don't have that many people. Um, so we don't have a commercial composting program. We don't have a community garden on campus either. I know that that's been a feature for different campuses, but again, we're not very big. We don't have that yet. So there is room for improvement here. Help on the way, maybe. There is a local startup that is starting to compost at the residential level, and it's very small scale right now. It's just basically 3 employees that are delivering, picking up, servicing the local area of Fredericksburg, dropping it off at a local farm, getting it composted, and then delivering it back. So certainly not a commercial operation like Convertus or Nope, but at least they service the area. There's a start. So they currently operate a subscriber system with residential customers, but of course, with the opportunity, if they can expand, we think that they can help be an institutional partner, which we need. We don't have that. We don't have that right now. So hoping we can expand our composting operations. So that's why I say help is on the way. On the academic side, I mentioned our food studies minor, which is across disciplines, which talks about food waste and allows students to really learn more about food waste. We're trying to also we're trying to encourage students to try to be innovative about ideas to prevent food. We want student ideas to come to light. We want to be implementing student ideas. We want to be able to provide incentive for them to do this, whether it's in class or through additional internships or grants or prizes or something like that. We want to encourage students to try to think of new ideas to prevent food waste. We want to be leaders, but from the academic side with a lot of student momentum to do this. So here's an example. We had like a Top Chef competition where students would create food out of upcycle, where they would upcycle food and then have taste testing and competition to try to see who can create the best product out of stuff that would otherwise have been thrown away. So here's a picture of some of the students presenting what they did. We thought it was very creative. It got the word out. It created a lot of publicity. It got students active. They had fun with it. It went around campus as like, oh, this is the food waste thing. And so, people started talking about it. It got more it got more buzz as a result. So we want to encourage that. They'll come up with really creative stuff. And when I said I eat a lot of food, I'm not going to lie. I do certainly appreciate a project like this. I make sure that all of this food finds a good home. Usually in my fridge. And then they also did they've also been doing things like social media campaigns where they'll create posts and they'll post regularly. And here's one of the posts that they'll create to try to get the word out amongst their networks that, hey, this is a problem. So we want to try to encourage students to take the lead on this. We want your ideas. You guys have much better ideas than we do. I'm a member of AARP. I mean, how innovative are my ideas? So, okay, we think that could help, and we're hoping that we will develop more student engagement and we'll be able to leverage that in the future. That's pretty much all I had. I'm open, of course, any questions, comments. If anyone wants to send me any food products that are nearing their date label, I'd be happy to take those off your hand. I'm sure we can use those. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we'll hand it over to our other pair of speakers from the Rhode Island School Recycling Project, and then we can hopefully have lots of time at the end for questions and discussion, if that sounds good.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, I think we'll give everyone a minute to switch screen share.
Jim, want to bring up the PowerPoint?
I am working on it.
All right.
Is my voice doubling up?
We can see you and
You can hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
But we can't see the PowerPoint.
This now. No.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. I'm sounding a little loud, but here is our program. Oh God, this is going to be difficult because I've got a delay. I'll just go ahead. Warren and I are going to make the presentation together. We may interrupt each other, which is our natural way of communicating. So our organization, hey, Warren.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time doing it because I have such a delay.
You want me to just start and then you jump in?
Yeah, I think you
Okay.
should.
Sure. So Jim and I are retirees. Jim was in the radio industry and I was a union organizer. And then Jim got some grant money to set up a pilot project in Rhode Island to set up food waste diversion in the public schools. So we're called the Rhode Island School Recycling Project.
Two windows opened.
Jim, you put yourself on mute. Can you skip to the next slide, please? Or click to the next slide? I don't think that I can. Yeah, you have to advance. Oh, technical difficulties. Oh, there we go. So we're right now in about 52 schools, predominantly in elementary schools, and we're very much similar to what you just heard. We're a project-based learning project. We're focusing on reducing, recovering, and recycling in the schools, and we very much want the students to be in the forefront of leading the effort. And through that, our hope is that these students, as they age, will continue to influence their families and go on to be active in reducing food waste, in diverting good, healthy, edible food to people that are food insecure, and in composting. Next slide, please. So we did Jim did a study in 15 schools to look at, and very similar to what we just heard about, what was happening in our public schools. And as a result of that, we determined that the schools were throwing out 2,500 tons of food every year. And of that, 388 tons was perfectly good food that was going into the trash. Unopened milks, yogurts, cheese, whole food, bananas, apples, oranges, pears, baby carrots, granola bars, etc. So, and next slide, please. Well, so this is happening simultaneously with a third of the kids in the schools are food insecure. We're wasting a third of the food that we produce. That's bad for the environment. We're burning a lot of carbon to move the food from the farm to our plates and then throwing it into the trash. And in Rhode Island, our landfill will be full by around 2038, and we don't have a second landfill. So we would then have to start shipping our trash to other states. And we know that Connecticut, which has gone through all of their landfills, spends $93 million a year shipping their trash. I think they go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. So that's a problem. So we created a program called the Food Smart School, and this is what we're doing. So we're trying to divert 100% of the lunchroom food away from either the landfill to be either composted or eaten, and then also to recover 100% of the good food and direct that to the food insecure students, either the kids in those schools, their families, or as a fallback to food pantries. But with a third of the kids being food insecure, we don't often go to the pantries. And then we want to try to reduce the amount of food waste by 50% by 2030. Next slide, please.
Hey, Warren.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
And I don't have the same delay, so I think I've cured my problem. I'm sorry
Great.
for this, but
why don't you pick it up?
Yeah. So in order to measure goals, when we set goals, they have to be achievable, but a stretch, and they've got to be measurable. So it is achievable for us to divert 100% of the food waste in school cafeterias. It is achievable for us to recover food and redistribute it to hungry people. It's not achievable to reduce food waste, to eliminate food waste, but we have followed the same guideline is the USDA, the EPA, and the United Nations, which is to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030. So to measure that, here are some of our definitions. Food waste is all uneaten food that's being sent to the landfill currently in schools, which includes recovered food, liquids, and food scraps. So that's food waste. The definition of recovered food is unopened milk, yogurt, cheese sticks, whole food, bananas, apples, grapes, those types of things, any other commercially packaged item that is served as part of the school lunch program. And then food waste per student is an important measurement because it's how we look at the differential between the baseline that we created in 2019 and where students and where schools are today. So food waste per student equals recovered food plus food scraps plus liquids divided by the school enrollment.
Can I just jump in there? So when Jim talks about liquids, the students that only drink some of their milk but not all their milk, we, instead of throwing that half milk carton into the trash, we have the students pour the liquids off into a milk bucket, which we then weigh. And then when we're done with that, then the milk gets poured down the drain. So it does not go to the landfill.
At this point, we usually ask the question, who do you think wastes the most food? But as you can see, elementary schools waste more food than any other students. In our urban areas, the food waste per student is 63.7 pounds per year. In suburban and rural schools, it's 41 pounds per year. In middle schools, 39.3, and in high schools, it's 15.6 pounds per year. When we go into a school, and we work mostly with elementary and middle schools, but when we go into a school, the first phase of our program is to set up these sorting stations, train the students, engage all the key stakeholders, and start sorting trash and diverting it away from the landfill and recovering perfectly good food on the share table you see here on the right. And we teach students safe food handling guidelines, and share tables are endorsed by the state of Rhode Island in schools. And so they get to learn how to safely recover food. In year 2, we start focusing on preventing, which is more of a cultural thing. It's a behavior that's more difficult to influence.
Can I just add, if you go into an airport or the train station or even Starbucks, a lot of these places now have compost bins. They want to have a recycling bin, a trash bin, and a compost bin. But if you're like Jim and I, we stick our heads into those things, and in fact, they're totally contaminated. And it's a joke, actually, to think that it's actually you're being composted or recycled in any of those places. The thing that's missing is somebody standing there and telling people this is how you sort the trash. And so we're very dedicated that our program only works if we have student leadership standing by the sorting stations and making sure that it's done properly. Over time, the kids, get it, but you've got to have somebody there to make sure that it's being done properly. Otherwise, it doesn't get done.
And so we also do a big part of our program is to measure what's going on in the cafeteria. So we do food waste audits, and we teach students that measuring is a really important thing to do in life, because if you can't measure it, you can't really manage it. And so we work with students to measure each category of waste and then subtract the weight of the bins so we get the net weights. There's really 4 steps to a food waste audit. The first is to measure each bin at the sorting station. The second is to add and subtract the net weight. So we do that in classes at the whiteboard. Students like to add and subtract decimals in their without writing it down. Then we plug the weights into our dashboard, and we discuss. It shows how much, by doing what they're doing, they're reducing greenhouse gases that would otherwise be created if they didn't divert and reduce food waste. And they learn this, and we also show them a wonderful NASA Kids video on the greenhouse effect, because students need to understand the greenhouse effect to really understand how food waste creates problems for the environment. We then help display this so they
Jim,
see
can I
what it
just add
looks
one
like.
thing?
Yes,
Jim,
yes, go ahead, Warren, sorry.
The original food waste audit we do before anybody knows that the project is coming to the school, so that we get an actual picture. So we make sure that It's not a day when there's bus trips. It's not a day when there's a lot of absenteeism. We try to get just a basic day. And then we go in and we hang out in the cafeteria and we work with the custodians and we tell them, before you throw anything out in the back, we want to we count every bag and we weigh every bag. And if the school happens to have a shared table, because some schools have that, then we keep that data as well. So it's very important. If you want to get a real baseline, you can't let anybody know what's happening, because otherwise, the data starts to get corrupted.
Here's one of our 52 schools, the International Charter School. They have to date diverted 11.8 tons of food waste. That's the equivalent of 2 elephants. They have also recovered 1,717 pounds, which, according to Leftover Cuisine, is the equivalent of 1,430 meals. This is a display of how they've reduced their food waste per student. In an urban elementary school, the average is 63.7. These folks, in International Charter School, these students are down to 47. They've reduced it by that much, and their 2030 goal is to get to 31.85. And then we show them what this means with regard to reducing CO2. We show them that what they've done is the equivalent to a car driving 49,000 miles, or the carbon sequestered by 19 acres of forest. And if you want to prevent food waste, it's really important, or if you want to deal with food waste in ways that are most advantageous to the environment, the EPA has this wonderful infographic that shows what the most important things are. When you divert food waste, you're not reducing food waste, you're just diverting it. It's still wasted. And so what we focus on when we're diverting and we're recovering, we say to students, you're doing a great job, but guess what? Now we have to start preventing food waste from happening in the first place. And then we point out that when you compost, when you divert, 1 pound of food waste is the equivalent of 0.45 pounds of carbon dioxide. When you reduce food, when you push that supply chain back and you reduce food waste by 1 pound, it's the equivalent of 3.66 pounds of carbon dioxide. So you get a much bigger bang for your buck if you are reducing food waste.
I just want to add, one of the projects that we're doing with, it turns out with Sodexo, the same company that is at your school, we're getting them to agree that we recover a lot of milks that are unopened. And so we have a refrigerator and we have a cooler right there. So we get the milks, we immediately put it in a cooler or refrigerator. But then at the end of the meal, we're putting them back into the school's cooler so that the kids can then take the milks again, which is a way of pushing back the supply chain on milks. Because, we can certainly give the milks to food pantries, et cetera. But if we actually push it back, put them back into the cooler, which you're allowed to do by the Department of Health and the USDA, as long as you've kept it cool and you're looking at the expiration date on that. And so that's a big way to push back the supply chain. Plus, the school district gets to sell the milk twice, which is good for the economics of the lunch program.
Yeah, and milk is the second largest category of waste in school lunchrooms, and it takes a big carbon footprint to produce milk, as we know. Again, we show them that when you divert, you're creating 0.45 pounds for every pound you divert. When you reduce, you push the supply chain back, and you really create a much bigger benefit. Then in the second year, we start doing zero waste days. And we say to schools, we're going to challenge you to eat everything that you select for lunch and produce no unnecessary waste. Obviously, banana peels are necessary waste and things like that. We engage the class and we talk about reducing food waste, and we do a brainstorming session about how can we reduce food waste in the lunchroom. And then the students do the planning, the promoting, the hosting, and the measuring and posting the results. Can you eat a zero waste lunch? Yes, if everything you take at lunch you eat. And when they eat everything they take, we give them a sticker that says, I ate a zero waste lunch, and that they have an opportunity to draw prizes like tickets to the Boston Museum of Science, the zoo, the aquarium, and other high value prizes for elementary students. In that classroom session, we speak to the students and we say, what are some of the resources that we use to grow and produce the food we eat? We get a discussion going. Why is it important to reduce the amount of food we waste? We talk about what I've just been talking about. We do a brainstorming. We talk about if you bring lunch from home, what can you do to make sure you have zero waste? We talk about using Tupperware instead of plastic bags, and water bottles instead of plastic bottles. We talk about some of their favorite lunches. What are your favorite fruits and veggies? And then we encourage the students to go and meet with the food service provider, the head cook in the kitchen, tell them we're going to do a zero waste day and get them on board. It's so important to get food service providers, cafeteria staff, and custodians on board in this program. And then we tell them, what are some ways we can tell everybody at school about zero waste day? And like Warren just pointed out, we look at the components of food waste, and we have a specific program targeted right now at reducing liquids, which is mostly milk. Then the students take their best ideas and they make a plan. And we select a date and we set a timeline. 4 weeks out, we do a teaser campaign, Zero Waste Day is coming. 2 weeks out, we have posters, and we typically do a zero waste tips contest. 1 week out, a banner goes up in the cafeteria, and the student presenters go to different classes. And we send a note out to parents telling them that, we want them to help the student pack a zero waste lunch that day. And the day before, we do morning and afternoon announcements. Here are some of the posters for promoting a zero waste day contest, student presentations. We use that communication infrastructure in the school. And then on zero waste day, we have the students on a microphone coaching the students in the cafeteria to eat everything that they do. Here are some of our results from zero waste days last year. The 50% goal is what they're striving for, and on zero waste day, you can see we easily overachieve, which leads us to ask, why can't every day be a zero waste day? And then finally, unfortunately, Warren, the slide with your and my name did not save, so I can't. We'll have to send that information to everybody at a later time.
So I just want to add, and maybe Sydney can get it out. So we have a 45-page toolbox about this project, and there's a whole chapter on reducing food waste. So
on preventing food waste.
Preventing food waste. So I highly recommend people. It's downloadable. It's on our website. Sydney can send out the link to the website. There's a lot of really good information on that we've sort of collected from really across the globe. Jim did an excellent job on that, so highly recommend. And Jim and I are always available to talk about, brainstorm ideas on how to make this happen. Just the only thing I would add is that we try to bring a real sense of urgency. We don't have time. We've run out of time to try to save the planet, so to speak. And so we try to, when people put up roadblocks, we just try to plow right through them, because there's a lot of people who are hungry, and there's a lot of food being wasted, and we're destroying the environment, and we can change that if we actually put our mind to it.
Great. Well, Warren and Jim, thank you so much. I am going to stop our recording and then open it up to see if anyone has any questions or points of discussion. I think